Hey, what's up you guys? Raylo from KidneyPuncher.com here to bring you another review. Today, we're going to be talking about the Glacier Gen3 Genesis Atomizer by Vaperz Cloud. This is a brand new Genesis style rebuildable tank atomizer, and it is truly a thing of beauty. But before we go any further, let's go ahead and dive down up close, take the top off, take everything apart, show you all the insides, and talk about it a little bit more. So we'll be right back. Alright, so here we are in up close mode with the Glacier Gen3 by Vaperz Cloud. Here's the box that it comes in. Let's go ahead and take a closer look. So of course, here's the front of the box. You could see the Glacier Gen3 sitting right inside. Glacier with the little snowy mountains in the background. Let's look on the side. We got our features. Glacier Genesis tank, dual post design, 24 millimeters, wide bore drip tip, protruding 510 connection, and 2 milliliter capacity. On the bottom, you just see by Vaperz Cloud and vaperzcloud.com. And of course, contents is the Glacier Gen 3, spare glass, spare O-rings, spare hex screws, and a awesome hex tool. And the top, just Vaperz Cloud. Let's go ahead and open this sucker up. Okay, so here's the presentation when you open up the box. As you can see, we have our Glacier Gen 3 sitting right there, ever so beautifully. We have our spare glass, and we have our bag of goodies. The bag of goodies comes with a hex key, some spare hexes, 2 spare coils, and a couple, well, not a couple, quite a bit of different assorted O-rings. And my favorite feature is the hex tool. I love this hex tool. This works so well, easy to hold in your hand, and very, very easy to tighten and loosen up your hex screws. Now let's go ahead and dive deeper into the Glacier Gen 3. All right, so here is the Glacier Gen 3. Let's go ahead and start from the top, work our way down to the bottom. So the top here, we have a Delrin drip tip. This is a 10 millimeter wide bore Delrin drip tip. Let's go ahead and pop that off. It's held on by 2 O-rings. Nice, snug fit, but easy enough to remove and strong enough to hold the tank without falling. We have our top cap, and this portion of the top cap is for your airflow. Your airflow here, you can see, is dramatic. You have quite a bit of airflow going on here on both sides, and it is fully adjustable. Just grab onto the top here and twist, and you can see as it closes off the airflow. So you could go all the way down to the tightest little mouth to lung draw, or open it up and just have this massive dripper style airflow, and you have both sides covered in these airflow holes. Take a look at the engravings. On the front, you have a beautiful engraving of Glacier, and then on the back, you have their Glacier logo with the mountains. Very, very well done. Down here, you have your glass tank, which of course is going to hold all of your liquid, and that is held on by these 2 O-rings, plus it is screwed into the top, but we'll break that down a little bit later. And here's the bottom. You can see Vaperz Cloud engraved into the bottom, plus serial number 0701. Now this copper 510, while it does protrude out, it is not adjustable, but you can see it does stick out quite enough. Perfect for any hybrid that you want to use it on, but just be careful to check the top of your batteries. Make sure it's not indented if you are using a hybrid device, because it doesn't protrude out too much. Now let's go ahead and take off the top cap. All right, so top cap has been removed. It is held on by 2 O-rings right here on the deck, and it does have a conical design on the inside where it meets up with your drip tip. Let's go ahead and pop this out. You can see the airflow adjustment ring is held on by a single O-ring, and it is cut in a diagonal shape, so that way you can utilize their airflow design perfectly. And it is only for dual airflow. There is no single coil option with this device. All right, now the best part is this deck. Look at this deck. It is massive for a Jenny. And you have that velocity style 2-post system with the 4 post holes. And you have very, very generous post holes. These post holes measure out 4 millimeters by 2.5 millimeters each. So just about any type of wire that you can make is going to fit in these post holes. To tighten up your leads, you have 2 hex screws on both posts. And then we look at the base of the deck. These 4 holes that you see on the sides, this is meant for your wicking. And I'll show you in the build portion how to wick this and build it properly. But basically you put your cotton wick into these slots here on the corners of your deck. And that of course feeds your liquid up into your coils. Now these two 3mm holes that you see on the middle of both sides, this is for your juice and air. So when you're filling this, juice goes into one hole, air escapes out the other, and that's how you fill this. When you look close down here at the deck, you can see the peak insulator that holds on to this positive post right here, and the negative is milled directly onto the deck. Now let's go ahead and unscrew our 510 pin and take our tank section off. To do this, you will need a flathead screwdriver and just unscrew your 510 pin. So right here we have our copper 510 pin, and you can see it comes with a peak insulator that keeps everything nice and safe. Threadings on the 510 pin are perfect. I've had no issues with them whatsoever. So now that we've removed the 510 pin, let's go ahead and unscrew the top portion from the bottom portion. Go ahead and grab onto your velocity post and start spinning. So you can see in there we have some more peak insulator, which of course is protecting from the positive post. And on top of the threading, it is also kept nice and tightly sealed with another O-ring. And the glass just is held on by this bottom O-ring. Let's go ahead and put this all back together, go back into FaceTime, talk about it, vape on it. All right, you guys, so we're back from up close mode with the Glacier Gen 3 by Vaperz Cloud. Now, let's go ahead and take a quick vape on it, show you how it performs. So, of course, as you can see, this thing produces clouds. This is definitely a cloud chasing Genesis style device with all of that airflow that's on there. You're definitely going to be able to put in some fairly hot builds, but there is a little warning, which we'll get into that later with those hot builds. But let's go ahead and talk about some specs real quick before we go into the pros and cons. So first things first, this is 53 millimeters tall by 24 millimeters in diameter. It does have the four by 2.5 millimeter post holes on the deck. It is a 2 millimeter capacity Genesis style atomizer. It has the 10 millimeter Delrin drip tip. It has the 3 millimeter fill holes, and it has the 32 different adjustable holes for your airflow control. Quite crazy on a Genesis, and the first one I've personally used and seen that has that sort of airflow capacity. Now let's go ahead and talk about some of the pros. So pros with this one, the airflow. You have tons and tons and tons of airflow, or you can dial it all the way until you have just one of the tiny little, I want to say that's maybe even like a 0.5 millimeter. And you could do that and just have two of those open and have straight mouth to lung hit and be completely satisfied if that's what you're used to. But if you're one of those drippers that's looking for crazy airflow, doesn't like the bottom coil tanks, you like that Genesis style because it does give you a little bit more flavor having the coils closer to your mouth, this is definitely something that you want to look into. The 2 millimeter capacity on here. So in my opinion, if you're looking at this, this is almost now, the new style of Genesis that are coming out are almost more like a dripper with a reservoir. It is still a Genesis style. You're not getting like the crazy 5 mil capacity on these, but this right here, when I fill this up with my 2 mils of juice and have this cranking at like 90 watts, I can go at least a good 30 minutes before I ever need to come back to this. And that's with chain vaping. Like if I'm just regular vaping on this thing, it could last me an hour or more. Plus, another pro, super easy to fill. Now there's two ways you could do this. Let's go ahead and get a little bit closer so I can show you what we're talking about here. So I can't tilt this too much because, as you know, it is a Jenny. And if you tip this a little bit too much, it's going to leak. You can already see some juice coming out. But your fill hole, which is directly underneath this coil, you could take your dripper or dropper on your glass, stick it right in that hole and fill it up. Or you can go with my preferred method. Say you're using a plastic dripper like I have here on this Bradley's brand juice. I don't even have to take the top cap off. I don't have to worry about that. And plus I don't have to worry about my coil being too hot and melting this if I'm trying to fill it. I just hold it this way. I'll tilt it, go in here and pour. And what happens is, since it's at an angle, you're actually going to have juice coming into this one while no juice covers this hole. So your air is going to release from this side while your juice fills on this side, and you'll clearly see your tank fill up. That's definitely my preferred method of doing it, just because I might be a little lazy. I don't want to bother taking off the top cap and sitting there trying to fill it. If I can just tilt, pour, and walk away, it gives me that feeling like I'm using an RDA instead of a tank, which I give that a massive thumbs up because, hey, that's the way I like to work on these things. Another pro would be the build deck. Having those giant post holes and having all that room to work with and having the 4 generous wick holes on the corners of this device make it a breeze when you're trying to build and trying to re-wick. You don't even need to take this thing apart. You can literally get your cotton in there and just stuff it down with the screwdriver, set of tweezers, or whatever you're using. You could even use the hex tool that comes with it and just sort of jam some cotton in there, and it works phenomenally well. The fact that it has a protruding 510 pin, while yes, it might not be adjustable, which could be a con to some, it doesn't necessarily need to be adjustable on this. They gave you ample room, so that way it sticks out far enough if you're using a hybrid device. This will work flawlessly on it. Another big pro is the machining. The machining on this is so well done. I've had no issues with threading. I've had no issues with the 510 pin. Everything fits on there perfectly snug, but not too tight where you're going to struggle to pull this thing off. The airflow control works really well. It might be a little stiff in the very beginning, but once you get some juice on there and it gets a little bit of lubrication, it turns with ease. Another big pro that I like is the engravings. I'm a sucker for engravings. I don't know about you guys, but I love really nice engravings. Laser etchings normally wear off over time, but something like this with those nice deep engravings with the glacier and the mountains and then the Vaperz cloud on the bottom, everything's really thick and deep engravings. Another pro, this is a flavor machine. So on top of being able to get massive clouds off of this, you're gonna get exceptional flavor. For the most part, when you're using a Jenny like this, you're getting that dripper experience. I mean, this is built like a dripper. I have 2 horizontal macro coils in here, and it just works great. I've had 0 issues with dry hits, and I don't have to worry about this thing flooding out on me because it's a Jenny. So that's pretty much what I have for the pros on this device. Let's talk about some of the cons that might come with this. So as you might have already known, with Genesis style atomizers, the main gripe that you normally hear from people is you can't tilt it. And that's true with this one as well. Since you do have the 3mm holes, if you have this thing tilted for too long, here, give you an example. Have it tilted for too long, and you're gonna get some drippage because you have those holes. So you can see right there, that's what's gonna happen if you have this thing tilted. So make sure when you're using this and you're not gonna be, or you're setting it down on your desk, make sure you set it standing up. Otherwise, you're gonna have it leak out on you and everything's gonna flood. Now, if you're using a thicker juice, like the one I have in here right now, which is an 80/20, so it is a high VG juice, I don't worry about it. You see, it actually took some time before it actually started dripping out. If you're using a thinner juice, it's gonna pour out a little bit quicker. So that's one thing that you definitely need to watch out for when you're using this device. Now, another thing that could be a con is the fact that the material that's used on the top cap, it's fairly thin. It's sturdy enough to where it's not going to bend or dent on you. But problem that you might run into, like I did when I first used this, is I put a heavy, thick Clapton coil on here, and I was firing it like 120 watts. Well, that makes this top cap get very hot. So that is something to watch out for if you are a high wattage vapor and you like a lot of power. When you're using this, if you start chain vaping it, this top cap does get fairly hot. Other than that, those are the only things that I could find wrong with this device. Everything else has been working flawlessly. And even those cons, in all honesty, might not even be cons to most people. It's just normally common knowledge that when you have a thinner material on top and you have your coils sitting on top, just like a dripper, if you put too much heat to it and you're chain vaping a little bit too much, you might burn your lips. So be careful with that. What I found for me personally is the build that I have in here, which of course we'll show you at the end of this video if you stick around for the build tutorial. I like to use 24 gauge Nichrome 80, about 12 wraps, and a dual coil. By just doing that simple basic coil, I've had an amazing vape experience with this device. Let's go ahead and take one more vape. flavor on this thing is just amazing. I'm truly loving this. And I haven't really been a big fan of Genesis atomizers, but last one that I was really into was like 2013. And I've been scared to jump into these new versions of it. And I'm very, very happy with this Glacier Gen 3. It's been my preferred vape since I got it in my hands. And it's probably going to be my preferred vape for a while. So if I wasn't reviewing this, would I buy this? Absolutely, 100%. I would purchase this device. I'm extremely happy with it, and it's going to be in my rotation for quite some time. All right, you guys, so that was the review. We're going to go ahead and jump into the build portion of this. Hopefully you guys like this review. Hopefully you guys stick around for the build tutorial. If not, and this is where we part ways, thank you so much for watching, and as always, vape on.
Alright guys, thanks for checking out our build tutorial and wicking tutorial on the Glacier Gen 3. I am Ray Builds Things, master builder here at Kidney Puncher. And we're going to go ahead and throw a quick set of coils in here. And so today we're going to be using some Kidney Puncher 24 gauge Nichrome 80, a little bit of Vaperz Choice Cotton, as well as an assortment of tools from our Coil Master build kit. Alright, so I went ahead and pre-made a couple of 12 wrap Nichrome 80 24 gauge coils on the 3.5mm spindle that comes with the Coil Master kit. And we're going to go ahead and show you how to install them. Alright guys, to install your coils on this, what we're going to do is we're going to put one lead into the top hole, the other lead into the bottom hole on the other side. So you're going to have something that looks like that. And you're going to go ahead and tighten your screws down. I'm going to go ahead and finish this off camera and we'll get the other coil in. Alright guys, we got the first coil installed. We're going to go ahead and flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. First lead into the top, second lead into the bottom on the other side. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this up off camera. Alright guys, so we got our coils both installed, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and dry fire them, pinch them, and make sure they're heating up evenly. What we need for that is our ceramic tweezers. So the next step now is we're going to dry burn. We're going to look for them to heat up from the middle to the outside. And we're going to pinch them with our ceramic tweezers. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure these are all clean off camera, and we'll come back for the wicking. Alright guys, so now we have two identical coils heating up from the middle out, heating up at the same time. That's exactly what we're looking for. We're going to go ahead and let these cool down for a second and then throw some wick in them. And so today we will be using Vaperz Choice Cotton. It comes in these nice little cups. And we're just going to take a little section of the cotton. We're just going to trim it off. And we're going to rip out a nice usable section to use. When we're installing our cotton, we want to give the end a little twist into a nice point. And we will take it and slide it through our coil like so. You want to pull it through. And so we're going to do the same for the other side. We're going to twist up our point. And we're going to slide it through our coil. I'm going to get these trimmed up and we will show you how to wick it the rest of the way. So now it's time to trim our wicks. What we want to do, typically I try to trim it about halfway down the tank itself. That way you have a little bit of tail sticking into the tank. And I'm going to finish up the other side off camera. Alright guys, this is what your cotton should be looking like after you go ahead and trim it up. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to stuff it into the wick hole that's there on the deck. We're just going to take our little tool and we're going to push the cotton down into that hole. We're going to repeat this on all four. So I'm going to do this off camera just to make things a little quicker. Alright guys, went ahead and got all the tails tucked into the tank through all the wick holes. This is what you should be kind of looking at, is just a little bit of wick poking through into the tank. So we're going to show you how to prime it up, how to fill the tank, and we'll go ahead and take a vape on it. Alright guys, and today we'll be vaping on some Town Crier from Tags Up. Tags Up is made by Sonoran Labs in association with the Vaping Militia. These are $13 a bottle for a 30 mil, $10 of which goes towards advocacy to help save vaping and help save this hobby that we all love so much. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to prime up these coils. All we're going to do is take a little bit of juice, and you want to saturate your wicking right there above the deck. Alright guys, and to fill up the tank you have these two fill holes underneath each coil. All you'll do is take your dropper or your unicorn bottle and go ahead and put it in the hole and squeeze. And now let me show you guys another method of filling this in case you just you don't want to take off your top cap. Alright, and for this method what we do is we just leave our top cap on and we actually just drip down into the addy and it will make its way into the juice holes and down into the tank. Alright guys, here's how the Glacier Gen 3 looks all filled up. We're going to jump up into FaceTime and see how she vapes. Alright, so that was the build and wick tutorial on the Glacier Gen 3. We're going to go ahead and take a pull off it, see how she vapes. Really, really impressive tank, guys. I want to thank you guys again for checking us out. My name is Ray Builds Things, Master Builder here at Kidney Puncher. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Alright, and now the way the tank is designed to be filled is you have these fill holes right underneath your coils. And what you'll want to do is squeeze juice all over the deck. There's one for the bloopers.